All right, good morning. Good morning. What's going on, everybody? Thank you very much for being here. Appreciate you guys being a part of the Sliwa Show. Friday, March 28th, 8 a.m. on the dot. Almost through the month of March. What the hell happened to March? Thank you for being a part of the show. Thank you for hanging out. Thank you for making the Sliwa Show part of your day on a consistent basis, Monday through Friday at 8 a.m. And then, of course, all the Laker postgame shows. We got a lot to get into today. Oh, man, we got a lot to get into. What the hell happened yesterday? What the hell happened yesterday? We still got a lot to figure out on that front, and you guys can help you guys can help me on that front. You guys can help me understand what we all watched yesterday, so we'll worry about that in just a little bit. But I appreciate you guys being a part of the show, and I'm going to spend a little bit of time here. I got a quote for everybody. I'm going to give everyone a quick rundown of the show, and then we're going to get things moving. Do have a guest today. So Trevor Lane, the Lakers Nation, is going to join the show. So we'll kind of, we'll kind of be trying to move through this show a little bit faster than usual. So we got a lot, kind of a busy show going on today, and we'll take it from there. Here's a quote that I got for everybody. See here, make sure I got the right screen up here. A quote I got for everybody. People will forget what you said. People will forget what you did, but people will never forget how you made them feel. People will forget what you said. People will forget what you did, but people will never forget how you made them feel. All right, it's a good quote there. Solid quote right there. Here's what we got going on for the show. I'm going to spend a little bit of time just kind of giving a quick breakdown. We'll get the show started. I'll take a look at some of the comments, and then we'll get things started. What happened last night? I don't know if I have an answer for it. I really actually, it's kind of such a weird collapse to see a team collapse the way the Lakers did last night. I don't know if I have I don't really know if I have an example for this. Like I don't know if I'm trying to think here in my head. What can I look back on and say, okay, there was a collapse like this, and lost to the Orlando Magic, lost to Atlanta. All those games came at the last set, but not like this. The game last night was definitely a little bit different. Talk a little bit about that. I have a question for everybody too. Where are you on this team of? I saw a lot of people in the comments that were saying yesterday, just get healthy and get in the playoffs and then go from there, which is they're completely right. But I'm not. What I guess I don't understand from people is there still a lot of faith? Like, hey, this team can do a lot of damage once they get in, or does this just feel like a squad that will get in, maybe win a round, and then start putting all your attention to the offseason? We'll spend a little bit of time on that as well. I'm going to bring up a topic, and I want you guys to know why I'm bringing it up. One of the topics for today is going to be on the Stephen A. and LeBron thing that was going on. The topic is not about the details of Stephen A. Smith versus LeBron James, but it's more about the media. And it's more about how much time was spent yesterday, not just on ESPN when Stephen A. Smith is addressing LeBron. Every network you can possibly think of was breaking down Stephen A. Smith versus LeBron James. I don't know who this is a win for, to be honest with you. I want to spend time on why consumers, is this what consumers want? Because I will tell you, ESPN, whether you love them or you hate them or whatever your thoughts are on ESPN, they're going to most likely do what's in the best interest of business. And I just am trying to figure out, is that what's in the best interest of business? And the numbers probably tell you that it is. So I'll spend a little bit of time on that. Trevor Lane, the Lakers Nation, is going to join the show in about 10, 15 minutes or so. Small MLB stuff, not small, but a little bit of MLB stuff. Obviously, opening day yesterday. A couple things I'm going to hit on that. Weekend preview, and then we'll get out of here. Quick reminder, if you're a member, right after the show, give me about maybe 20 minutes. Get the timestamp up. I got to get a couple things done right after the show for this pod. And then on Fridays, members, MVP members, we're going to do a video after. It'll be live for just members. We'll talk about what we did this week, some of the topics, game plan a little bit for next week, guests that we want to get on next week. I like kind of planning out now. This is a new thing that I'm doing here with members. I think it's a great way to have everybody interact who is a member to kind of put their handprints on the show. So I'm going to do a little bit of that. If you want to be a member and you're not a member yet, here's your chance to do it. There's a link right there. You could be a member, $3 a month. All right. Let's take a look at some of the comments. We can get started on the show. Okay. Already got these coming. LeBron was the reason we lost yesterday. Brutal loss. Really, really bad. Man, that honestly, you can't really script a worse loss than that. Giddy travel, too many steps. Okay. Heads up, they didn't call it if they did. Good morning, Slee. Good morning, everybody. Okay. All right, William. Look at William coming in with some old school hip hop right there. Let me get a couple more in here. Morning, Slee. A little concerned with the late game defense. What late game defense? They don't play any late game defense. One of the classic quotes out here. Failing to prepare is preparing to fail. Phenomenal quote right there. Okay. Let's get started. We'll get started with the show, and then I'll keep looking at some of the comments here, and we'll roll with the punches here. Okay, let's get started. What happened last night? One of the worst collapses. I've been watching the Lakers, let's call it since the early 90s. Actually, I never really was into the Lakers during the Showtime era. I was just too young, 6, 7 years old, 8 years old, whatever I was. So I really didn't watch the Lakers when they were stacking up all those championships. When I did watch them is when they got to the NBA Finals against the Chicago Bulls. Before that is kind of when I started watching them. And they ended up losing, and obviously that kind of just tells a little bit of the story of kind of what my era is. And I started walking into that era kind of just after Magic's career, but I was there for the latter part of Magic's career. It's one of the worst collapses I've ever seen as a Laker fan. It really is. It was, you're up 5 with 12, 13 seconds left to go, and you can't hold on to that lead. You give up 2 threes in about 6 seconds, still find a way to score, and then Giddey gets off a pretty good shot. Listen, whether there was a defender on him or not, Giddey's hitting a 45-footer from half court. I don't think they lost the game that way. But I got so many questions that come out of that loss. Whose fault? I want to point the finger at somebody. Whose fault is it? LeBron, it's your fault. JJ Redick, it's your fault. I just, you're looking to see who can I put the blame on. Really, really tough loss to watch. And it's also a critical game for the Lakers. I think sometimes we forget, and I don't think most of you guys forget, because I think, you guys are keeping track. If you're spending some time with me and watching the show that I do here, obviously I'm hitting on a lot of Lakers content, a lot of NBA content. And everyone really understands the significance of that game and the significance of every game right now in the standings. What's the number one goal right now, I think, for the Lakers? If the goal was before, can they sneak up to a number 2 spot? That's pretty much out of the picture. The next goal becomes, can you have home court in the first round? But what you're also keeping an eye out on is the teams that are sitting in 6th place and 7th place in the play-in tournament. How many losses do they have? Last night was a bad loss, a crucial loss to what the Lakers are hoping to do, or hoping of what they can accomplish in the standings. If they would have lost yesterday, I'm just going to kind of give everybody an example. If they would have lost yesterday by 10, we're going to bitch and complain. Lakers lost by 10. How could they do this? What were they doing? It's Chicago again, all that stuff. But how you lose sometimes also has a lot to do with it. There have been a couple games that the Lakers have had. Go look back at the Pacers game as well, where late game situations, I don't really know what they're doing. Defensively, they kind of olay things and they start giving up, and You know what's kind of I'll tell you what's annoying with this team. They act like they're better than they are. There's this kind of arrogance because it's Luka and it's LeBron and it's the Lakers and they went 20-4 over that stretch. There's this arrogance of like, yeah, we could take our foot off the gas. No, you can't. First off, you can't take your foot off the gas because that's just a stupid strategy, number one. And the second reason why you can't take your foot off the gas, you're not good enough. You don't have all these pieces that connect perfectly. And them against the Indiana Pacers, they take their foot off the gas. Them against the Chicago Bulls yesterday, they take their foot off the gas. Against Orlando, up 9 before the half, they take their foot off the gas. And then by the time you get to halftime, it's a 2-point game. And Orlando's got all the momentum, and we know what Orlando did in the third quarter. You know, I'll even go back to that loss that the Lakers had against Milwaukee. You sure you want to sit everybody? I mean, you sure that's the strategy that you want to take? You just want to sit everybody? Is this team in a position to do that? All right, you want to make the case, 6 games in 8 nights, everything else. Well, surely didn't help them, on this road trip. And it didn't help them in that final game against Chicago. There's so many layers that came out of last night's game. It just didn't feel like one game. Just like I thought the Pacers win was a huge win. Had to have it. Maybe they're going to build momentum. As quick as we were watching LeBron saying ball game, with his hand up, you turn the script 24 hours later, everybody's walking over to the bench like, how the F did we just lose this game? So I thought last night had a lot of significance. I thought last night was a really, really difficult game to try to grasp and understand. And there's a part of me that thinks that this team, they have this arrogance to them that is not justified. If the team was complete, it was whole, you had all the right roster, positions, and they weren't undersized, and they've been doing this, this is kind of their second or their third year doing this, and the team, you really understand what the team is. I still think they're trying to they're still trying to figure out their own identity. But how a team just gives up 8 points like this, or they go up by 12, take their foot off the gas, now it's 4. Kind of gain the lead again, and then how quick that it goes away. Okay, I understand it's the NBA. There's other players, there are other teams out there as well. But the things that they do to bring them success all of a sudden are not as valued as the game progresses in critical moments, and I thought last night was a good example. All right, let me take a look at some of the comments here, and we'll keep rolling here. John Wayne, I make the right play every single time. LeBron. Yeah, I don't know what LeBron was doing yesterday. I really don't. I mean, his pass, Josh Giddey had a quote saying, basically, like, yeah, I don't know. He just kind of threw a bounce pass, and I just grabbed the ball. I mean, Austin Reeves was worried about sealing his own guy so that he can get the ball. Austin Reeves never had a chance on the inbound. Never had a chance. Even LeBron's play on defense, he said there was a miscommunication on the defense. I'm not sure what the miscommunication was, but they got off a really, really clean three-pointer because Austin Reeves kind of started leaning towards a little bit closer to where the ball was being inbounded. So LeBron moved up as well, and then Vucevic got the ball, and he quickly passes it to the corner. Williams. Just a couple bad possessions in a row. There's no other way to put it. One day the GOAT, next day the GOAT, always LeBron. I will tell you guys, it is interesting how hot and cold people are on LeBron James. I'm going to take these first 2 comments, and I've encouraged this the whole time. You and I, we don't have to agree. I appreciate the supers. Keep them coming. They don't even have to be a super. They could be just a regular, obviously a regular chat, so it doesn't matter. But it is interesting to me the up and down people have with LeBron specifically. When there's an opportunity to say, hey, look, I told you, LeBron did this wrong. That's why Jordan's the best. These people come out and they're ready to go, firing on all cylinders. And then when there's times for people to come out and say, LeBron's the greatest to do it, look what he just did, everybody's coming out. They're coming out hot and firing. Not that many sitting in the middle on the LeBron conversation in the LeBron debate. Big Sneed. I appreciate you, brother. Thank you very much. That's very, very nice of you to throw a 20 spot in there. I know the money drives media, but the main reason I love sports media like yourself is it seems a bit more journalistic. Yes, you're a Laker fan, but you try to remain objective at the same time. Yeah, I mean, just simply put, if I'm not doing that, then kind of why am I doing it? If I'm just blowing smoke up everybody's, you know what, then that doesn't make my job fun, and I'm sure you guys wouldn't enjoy it as well. Big Steve, I'm going to come back to this because a little bit later I mentioned I do want to talk kind of the state of media and talk a little bit about that LeBron and Stephen A. and all that other stuff. Is this what people want? So I'll come back to Big Sneed. We'll get back to your conversation in a little bit. Speaking of objective in the business, great at what they do. I mentioned to you guys I'm having one of my good buddies and a great guest of the show, Trevor Lane of Lakers Nation. Trev, good morning, brother.
Morning, Alan. How you doing?
Oh, I'm doing just great. Just great. How are you doing, brother?
Oh, man. Absolutely brutal last night. There's no getting over that. That was crushing. And what an awful way to lose a game. Yeah, still hurting from that one for sure.
Yeah, I was just saying, and I know you go back a long time watching Lakers basketball. And I'm trying to kind of and listen, I know there's been brutal losses. I mean, that's fine. That kind of comes with the territory. But I was thinking in my head here, I'm like, I don't know if I remember off the top of my head. I know the Lakers have lost. I know there's been awful buzzer beaters. I know there's much more important games than a game on March 27th at Chicago, right? But that was a very, very creative collapse that I don't think I could have put together on paper. If you said, hey, is there a way a team can collapse up 5 in, with X amount of seconds left? How it happened to then get the lead again, even after the collapse, and then Giddey still hits a 3-pointer to end it. I don't really have, I'm trying to think if I have some games in my mind where it was that bad. You got anything that comes to mind? Have you talked to some of your people and some of the people in the chat that were saying that was as bad as this game? I don't know if I have one that comes to mind.
I think most of the people I talked to, last night when it happened, we just used a lot of colorful language. But when it comes to like tough ones, and the Lakers have, and I don't know if this is something that I'm just biased in this, but it feels like the Lakers have endured a lot of these lately. When we think about Franz Wagner earlier this season, there was one against the Pacers a couple of years ago. There was new Laker Maxi Kleber hit one against the Lakers a couple of years ago. So it felt like there's been a lot of those.
JJ mentioned the Hawks game earlier in the year. Remember that game that went to OT? Lakers lost in Atlanta. That was kind of a crushing loss.
Yep, absolutely. It's all of those. But this one it particularly hurts for a couple of reasons. And I think number one, it's that obviously what it means in the standings, what it means in the playoff race. Yep. That you're right there. And this is another how many games, Alan, do we have where we're going to be looking back when the dust settles here and we look at the final standings and we're like, oh my God, what if? You go back, lose it to the Hornets, lose it to the Jazz, all those types of games, the Nets and stuff like that, where you're saying, what if? This is another, what if, right? What would this have done for them in the standings and how damaging that can be? But then on top of that, this was 9 points in 12 point something seconds that you gave up. 9 points in 12 points. I mean, that is going to be now like an NBA thing, like we talk about, T-Mac scoring 13 points in however many seconds, right? Like now it's like that level, 9 points in 12 point something seconds that they gave up. And that's the part that hurts too. On top of just this season, 10 years from now, people will be referencing, oh, hey, because you never know, anything can happen. Remember that year the Bulls scored 9 points in 12 seconds on the Lakers? It's going to go down as one of those moments. And so that being on the wrong end of that, insult to injury right there, my friend.
Do you remember, I'm sure you do, but one of the more iconic moments, I mean, I know it didn't lead to an NBA championship or anything like that. It was the collapse of the Knicks where Reggie hits the 2 threes.
Yep.
And it's kind of funny. I was thinking about this yesterday. I was mentioning it when I was doing the post game as well. I was like, I almost immediately thought of that because it was also the inbound. Reggie hits the three. Then there's a poor inbound. Reggie hits another three. It didn't happen just like that. It wasn't one player, but it was an inbound play coming in. And then Kobe White obviously gets it off the turnover from LeBron, and he hits another three. It made me think of that for a quick second. Yeah. Now, again, the stakes aren't the same. Here's the good news, because, if Laker fans are worried about the Chicago Bulls, now we don't have to face them just until the finals. So the good news is we don't have to go through the Bulls to get where we need to get to, Trevor. So the 0-2 against Chicago, you can sleep good tonight. You don't have to worry about them. They're in the East.
The sad thing is, I think that the Lakers overall for the game, like you look at the second quarter, or Alan, as I'm now calling it, the second quarter, because we can't call it a third quarter. The third quarters are not kind to the Lakers.
I agree.
So the middle two quarters, I thought the Lakers showed everything they needed to. I thought defensively they turned it up. They got back to being super active, and in terms of their closeouts and everything, they were flying all over the place. They played really well, and then everything just fell apart in the fourth. Again, I was looking at this going, yeah, see, like you can play with these quick, athletic, big, young teams that they've had problems with. They said, look, they can hang with these teams, and then so unfortunate to see it all unravel there. People want to point and say, oh, the Bulls just have their number. I'm like, man, I thought the Lakers had the Bulls number in the second and the second quarter, and then to have it all fall apart the way that it did, truly unfortunate. One of the great tragedies of the season, I think, from the Lakers' perspective.
Let me ask you this. I thought, something stood out to me, and I don't know, as you're getting ready to do your post-game show, how quick you go on or how much you listen to Spectrum at all, Worthy and some of these other guys as they're getting ready. But I was listening to Worthy, for a few minutes here, and, the crew on Spectrum, and they spent a lot of time talking about LeBron's inbounds and just how really poor the defense was towards those last couple of minutes. And you agree with this or not? Because I kind of had a little bit of a different angle. I thought some of the more frustrating times I'm watching Lakers basketball, I get they have players that can score. Reeves can go up against anybody. He showed it in the final couple of possessions. Luka can obviously create for himself. LeBron can do it as well. But I thought there were stretches for the Lakers when they were at their worst in the fourth quarter is when they completely went iso ball. And all of a sudden, the ball's not moving anymore. And all of a sudden, you're just looking at the shot clock. I was given an example. It reminded me of teams in the NFL that go prevent defense when they're up 10 points and then all of a sudden lose by a field goal because they're playing not to lose rather than let's just end the damn game. I felt like JJ Redick didn't do a good enough job towards the end of that game yesterday of getting these guys run sets. This is how we got the lead. We got the lead because the ball was moving. That offense actually did help the defense, and defense did help the offense. There was this kind of ecosystem for the Lakers. You feel that way, or do you feel like they were just mental mistakes? But I felt like there was way too much looking up at the clock rather than let's just do what we've done to get us this lead.
Oh, it's one of my biggest NBA pet peeves, Alan. It really is. I've been talking about it for years. It drives me crazy when teams do this because what you wind up doing is you put your opponent back into the game. And this is especially true against Chicago, right? Because what does Chicago want to do? They want to treat every missed shot like a live ball turnover. They want to fly down the floor, and at the very least, they're going to get a mismatch early in the clock, and they're going to get a quality offensive possession. So what you do when you stop doing what it was that got you the lead, and you just go to ISO and you're just trying to run clock, and then you're taking a contested 20-footer, which is the worst shot that you could take. Those are the shots that you're taking. What you're doing by taking those bad shots, trying to run clock as much as possible, you miss. Your opponent's getting a really good opportunity going the other way. They score. You're taking the ball out of the basket. They have their defense set. Rinse and repeat. Again, you're trying to run clock. And what you're doing is you're giving your opponent better offensive possessions. Most people think, you need to run the clock, that you've got the lead and all of that. But what you're actually doing by giving your opponent missed shots to run off of because you're taking more difficult shots by trying to run clock instead of just running offense. You're putting them in a better position to actually come back into the game and win it, more so than actually give yourself a shot to kind of just see the game out. So it's one of my biggest pet peeves, and teams go to it way too early. I get it. Like, if there's 2 minutes left and you're up 10, hey, that's fine. But teams go to it way too early in the NBA right now. You start seeing teams do it at the 6 minute mark of the fourth quarter, and they're looking at the clock and they're trying to run it. And next thing you know, you've put your opponent right back into the game. You've got to keep doing what you did to get you there. You've got to attack the basket. You've got to drive. You've got to put pressure on your opponent and score the basketball instead of settling for contested jumpers with 1 on the clock. That is how, well, we saw what happens when you do that, or what can happen when you do that. It drives me crazy.
I saw, there were a couple times, and this is what I mean by the JJ Redick piece of it. Okay. And I've given JJ a lot of praise this year because he deserves it. JJ's been phenomenal. He's been awesome. Like, kind of a big surprise to me. I didn't know how JJ Redick was going to do, but there were moments yesterday where I'm saying to myself, I'm like, JJ, this is a time. There's 2.5 minutes left in the game, 3 minutes in the game. Everybody's standing around looking at each other. Nobody's running anything. I felt like his presence of, give me a damn timeout, get everybody back on the sideline. Let me draw us up a play. Here's what we're going to do in this possession. Here's what we'll do in the following possession after that. Just a little bit more structure towards the end of the game, so we're all not sitting here. And like you said, the running of the clock, I really do think that played against the Lakers yesterday. And I really do think they kind of put themselves in a position where it played to the Bulls' advantage, like you mentioned, and now they can run off a miss. Listen, the clock meant something yesterday, but for the Bulls, it also meant, well, did you score or did you not? Because if you didn't score, we still got a chance to come back in this game. And if you're more worried about the clock and not a good shot or a good possession, that's definitely a little bit of a frustration.
And remember, he didn't have a timeout too. Well, he only had 1 timeout left because they burned an extra one when Austin turned his ankle to save the possession.
Yeah.
So yeah, he only had one timeout left. So otherwise, yeah, I think he should have burned a timeout earlier. But I could also argue, should they have called timeout when they were trying to inbound the ball? They should have burned it then, the final timeout. But yeah, I think that was the challenge.
By the way, that is ironic that they ended up not even using that timeout. And what's crazy about this, and I just, one quick last piece on this, and you could tell me how some of your interaction with people are when it comes to Braun specifically. I don't know what Braun was doing in that final defensive, not the giddy play. The final defensive possession, there seemed to be a little bit off in rotation, but Chicago to get that good of a 3-point look when they're down 5 with that many seconds left, like that obviously, and I know you have a cushion because you're up 5, but that possession and then the inbound, I have no idea kind of what was going through Bond's mind. Mistakes happen. And then it's interesting to look at some of the chat and get people's comments and thoughts. I'm not even talking about now because I'm not looking at the chat right now. But he's the greatest, he's the worst. There's no middle ground with LeBron James for most people.
Yeah. I know the final possession, it was not great what we saw from LeBron defensively. It was like they thought the game was over and, hey, just don't foul here. And really, that I believe I even said it on the live play-by-play, like, hey, if you have to concede a layup, just don't foul.
100%.
Try to deny the 3. You're up
100%.
5. But then you also would assume that you could execute the inbound pass even after they did. Even after they hit the 3, I wasn't that worried. I'm like, okay, 2-point game, but let's inbound the ball and go from there.
A couple free throws, yeah.
Yeah, and so I thought, okay, they're still in pretty good shape. And then, I never would have guessed that they would be incapable of inbounding that basketball. But as far as the polarization of the LeBron thing, I put something out there on X last night. I said, God, what a miserable way to watch sports. The way some of these people approach sports, and I think it's just indicative of our sports media landscape right now. You've got this whole group of fans that is, and I hesitate to call them that, fans, right? Because really all they're looking for is someone to do something wrong that they can point and laugh at, right? Like that's kind of the culture that we've been creating, where we just want somebody to get dunked on so we can point and say, that guy's cooked. Like that's the reaction that people are just waiting waiting for something bad to happen so that they can point and laugh at somebody.
Hey, I'm right. I told you that this
Exactly.
person,
See,
that,
I
whatever.
told you this guy is terrible. Remember when I said this and everybody else said this? I'm right. Everybody just wants to take a victory lap, and it's always for negative things. And a lot of times it's to try to prop up somebody else. And it's the dark side, it's the sad side of this whole like player first fandom. Like, this is like I saw a bunch of Jordan fans last night, right? Running around.
Sure.
Even there were Kobe fans. There were some Luka fans, which is bizarre. Like, who cares? Luka or LeBron, they're on the same team. Who cares? But you've got this group of fans that want to say, oh, look, see, LeBron did something wrong. See, proof. Jordan is better. There it is. Jordan, see, I told everybody. And then if LeBron goes for 50, oh, no, just don't say anything. Just stay quiet. Stay quiet. I'm going to wait a couple more games. Oh, LeBron did something wrong. See, Jordan is better. See how bad he is. See, like, what a miserable way to watch sports. You're sitting there waiting for something bad to happen to a player so that you can run around and talk about how terrible that guy is. Like, why not enjoy great players for being great players? Will players make mistakes? Yes. But LeBron James, I mean, that inbound pass doesn't change that he's one of the all-time greats. Should he be criticized for it? Absolutely. It was a terrible mistake. Does that change what LeBron's done over a 22-year NBA career in terms of what he is as a basketball player? No.
Apparently,
not
yes.
at all. All the greats have made mistakes. So to me, it's sad that that's where we're at, where so many people just want something bad to happen so that they can victory lap a negative thing and run around and tell everybody that they were right. And that's proof that they were right, rather than just enjoy great players for being great players. I mean, beyond the outcome of last night's game, it's a sad state of things when this is the world that we live in right now.
Well, let me ask you this. I actually had this on one of my topics here. I was going to put this up and here, let me see if I even have it. No, we'll come back to it. So there's one of my topics that I had on here, and I think you and I can start the conversation. We'll get right back into Lakers, Grizzlies, all that stuff coming up. But, man, watching the last couple of days, LeBron goes on Pat McAfee. Stephen A. spends, and Kendrick Perkins and ESPN spends a lot of time yesterday, obviously reacting to that. And I'm asking myself, and it's interesting getting a lot of people's different perspectives, right? Some people are like, oh, Stephen A. got demolished. He deserves it. I'm not even here for that argument. I don't care.
Yeah.
But I think the thing that was most interesting to me, it's like, is this what people want? Because I'll tell you what ESPN's going to do. If it's getting clicks, they're probably going to keep feeding it. That's how they run their business. And their business comes down to, what do the numbers look like? We getting numbers off of this? Then screw promoting this game or that game. This is what people are interested in. And I paused here for a second. Somebody had a really good tweet yesterday, and somebody said, instead of talking about this, and it's, Stephen A. doing his thing and Kendrick Perkins, they're all reacting. Windhorse was on there. All that reaction. This guy listed like 7-8 topics that they could have been talking about. And it was, something along the lines of Rockets having won 9 of 10. Are the Warriors a threat in the playoffs? Can Cleveland come out of the East? It was just like these thoughtful topics of, this is what they could be talking about, but this is what they're talking about instead.
Yeah.
And I'm like, this is a fantastic tweet. Here's the one problem with it. I think if you said, which one's going to get more views, the one where they're going off about LeBron's interview with Pat McAfee is the one that's going to get more views. So in a sense, it's like the world that we're living in that you're talking about now, and it was Stephen A. that was bringing up the reason why he doesn't like me is because I think Michael Jordan's the GOAT. I think he's the greatest of all time. The consumers will dictate what I think the media outlets will follow. And maybe that's not always the case, because the media outlets also have an incredible amount of power that can sway what they want you to follow. But it was an interesting couple of days. And I think that comes to part of your point as well that you were trying to make of, like, people watch the game for this. They're watching for people to lose rather than to win. It's different. It's not the same. It really isn't the same. And I think the way media is covering sports is not the same either.
Yeah, no, I'm not. Yeah, I'm not blaming this on fans for the way things are. Fans watch what fans watch, and then the numbers are what the numbers are, and it all kind of feeds into itself. But yeah,
I wish it wasn't like that. I wish it wasn't like that, because I'm not, I think for me personally, a lot of these topics I don't give a shit about. I really don't.
Yeah.
Now, if it's Charles Barkley saying something about the Lakers aren't good and here are my reasons why, and everybody wants to jump on Charles for that, I'm okay with that. Like to not think a team is going to work something like that. But a lot of this stuff has nothing to do with the game. It's just personal vendettas versus each other.
It's strange, and I don't look at things through the player first lens, and so there's a lot of people that are is it LeBron versus Steph, right? And people are trying to pump up the arguments for. I don't care, could not care less about which player is better or which is LeBron on the level of Jordan, is this on this, who cares? Like, none of that matters to me. I'm looking at it from the team perspective, and look, be a fan however you want to be a fan, but again, the negative side of it is people want to fall into. Invariably, you wind up trying to support one player becomes a gateway to just being negative about everybody else in order to pump up that one player. But you're right. Look, media, it's going to depend on what gets the views. And what happens is somebody gives a very negative and very strong, right? You can't be reasonable about it. You can't give a very measured opinion on it. You can't say, well, these are the pros, these are the cons. You can't present both sides of an argument. You have to just present your thoughts. Be as angry as possible when you do. Be as outraged as possible, because it's rage bait, right? When you do. A minute, 2 minutes or so. Stephen A. obviously goes on a longer rant, but package that, put that out, and then everybody will respond. Everybody will respond in one way or another. They'll either be positive or they'll be negative, but either way, they're going to respond. And that's the important thing now. And I think we've lost something in all of that. And we've lost, I think, meaningful discussion and debate. I think we've lost some of the art of debate. I can't tell you how many times now I see people, especially on social media, that will respond to something in a negative way, but never actually present an opinion of their own. So they'll say, look, everybody look at this. Can you believe this guy said this? And then a bunch of laughing, crying emojis, right? Without ever saying what they actually think. Like somebody says, hey, can you believe this guy did this thing? Without ever saying, hey, this is what I think should be done instead, without ever actually putting themselves out there and putting forth any kind of opinion of their own. And that's, I think, where we're kind of coming up short, is we're not furthering the conversation, not furthering the discussion of what it is that's happening. Instead, all we're doing is looking for things to point and laugh at.
It's funny. I think there's and I don't mind. It's actually kind of interesting, because now that you got a lot more players that have mics and podcasts, I like that a lot. I'm a fan of that. I want more of that, because I like the player perspective. Or if LeBron felt like Stephen A. Smith said something that made it personal rather than about basketball, I'm okay with anybody that wants to defend themselves. They should defend themselves. But it's just an interesting couple of days of from a sports perspective, because so much of it had such little to do with sports. And
it shined a spotlight on kind of the way things are right now, what really works. And now we're starting to see those player hot takes. That stuff's now getting aggregated. And look, and I've had to do some of it before too, and it always feels kind of gross. It's one thing if it's, player X says, they almost got traded back during this time. You're like, oh, I didn't know that. That provides context about, this thing that happened back then, and we didn't know this was going on. Does this change our perspective on things? Instead, now it's, player X cooked this guy or whatever. And that's what, people are responding to. It's just, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, I will say that I have found myself leaning a lot more toward, like I think I listen to a lot more podcasts of former players than I ever have, or current players, right? Yeah. Those that have podcasts that are talking it's a unique perspective for me. I like kind of getting the unfiltered, maybe
Sure.
somebody that was on for an hour, 2 hours, rather than, it's a TV segment and I only get 15 seconds to talk on this topic and then we go to another one. So
Yeah. Yeah, you get much more in depth than, hey, I've got this much time and I gotta say something definitive on one side or the other that people are going to respond to. You get more real analysis for sure.
Okay, back to the Lake Show here.
Mhm.
One of my topics was about if I asked you this question before LeBron got injured and they're getting ready to go play Boston, I think it was a very meaningful and fair conversation to say, whatever the West looks like, Lakers are one of the few teams that I think can really, really make some noise and come out of the Western Conference. As we sit here Friday, March 28th, part of it has to do with the injuries. Players are back. They're trying to work their way back. Part of it has to do with not good basketball. Part of it has to do with teams getting a chance now to kind of see what were the Lakers doing during that stretch where they were having success. How can we counter that? As we sit here right now, how have your expectations maybe changed a little bit over the course of the last couple of weeks? And how much do you think this is just about getting through the regular season and the Lakers are still a really dangerous playoff team? And how much of it do you think is, hey, if there isn't real noise made this year, they're clearly going to need that summer to kind of retool some things to try to put together a roster where all the puzzle pieces fit?
Yeah, I think that they were rolling, and then injuries hit, and that kind of knocked them off. And then players coming back from injury, they were able to recover a bit there. Now they dropped some games. You were missing. There was a point where they're missing just about everybody, right? But the injuries really disrupted, I think, their chemistry. They're kind of building a rapport out there on the court, and so now they're trying to rediscover that they had, and reintegrating those players when it's LeBron, when it's Rui, all these other guys that were out due to injury coming back in. Jackson Hayes was out for a bit. Now they're trying to rebuild what they had, and the clock is ticking. There's just not that much time left in the season. So I think most of it comes down to the defense. They were playing really, really high-level defense. That was their bread and butter. That was how they were winning games, was with the defensive side of the ball, which is a surprise. Wasn't what we expected out of this group after you trade Anthony Davis for Luka, for their defense to actually get better, and yet somehow it did. They were rotating well. They were really competing on that end of the floor, and I thought in the second and the third quarter last night, they did that. It fell to pieces in the fourth, and they completely lost their minds. But we've got a team that desperately needs to rediscover that. And that was always the challenge, with making a big trade at the trade deadline, was it doesn't give you a lot of time to build the chemistry that's necessary, because come playoff time, any little mistake, guys are off a little bit just because they don't have enough familiarity with each other. They don't have enough hours on the court together, which, by the way, I would assume, I don't believe the Lakers have practiced in the month of March, or if they have, maybe it was once, because it's just been such a jam-packed schedule. So they're trying to rediscover this without having much of an opportunity to do it. And they're going to be playing playoff basketball where any mistake gets magnified. That's a tough situation to be in. So it's not just about the seeding. It's also about, and that is obviously important to watch here now, because of what they did last night, they've put themselves in a situation where suddenly the play-in is more possible. And that's certainly a dangerous thing. Rui already talked about how important it is that they not be in the play-in so they can get that rest that they need.
Gotta
almost a week off. You got to get it. So now they put themselves in a really tough spot with that. But on top of that, it's discovering their quality of play, their chemistry, especially their defensive identity, and just they don't have a whole lot of runway to do it. So if they don't do that, Alan, if they don't find a way back to where they were, say, a month ago, their stay in the playoffs will be short-lived, because they're making enough mistakes that come playoff time, they're going to get magnified. Teams are going to pick on those things, and that will ultimately send them home. So they've got to not only try to win some games to stay afloat in the standings, but they've got to figure out a way to play better team basketball like they were, say, a month ago. And again, they have a very limited amount of time to do it. It may be that it simply takes getting into next season for this team, for this group, in terms of their core pieces, to have enough experience together to hit the level that they need to be at. But we'll see. Again, I thought they were playing at a very, very high level about a month ago. I thought that they looked very dangerous. I thought they were a team that nobody was going to want to see in the Western Conference. It was very exciting. And it seems like that has kind of fallen apart since we've had guys coming back from injury, and since really the injuries hit altogether. They've lost some of what their identity is, and the key is going to be rediscovering that.
You know, what's the portion that I get optimistic on is I don't really know what the West is. I mean, I really, I think I've kind of accepted and settled in on the Oklahoma City Thunder are a really, really good team and are going to continue to get disrespected until they win a round.
Yeah.
Until they get to the NBA Finals, I would say. But I also am not going to sit here and no one should be surprised or shocked that the Thunder run through the West. You just shouldn't. I mean, that's how good they are. They play phenomenal defense. You could say, well, do they have enough experience? And you can question the Thunder as much as you want, but if we get to June and they're in the NBA Finals and they just went through the West like it was nothing, no one should be surprised or shocked. After the Thunder, it seems like every team's got a question mark. And that's the piece that if you told me the Lakers got Memphis in the first round, do you have this unbelievable wavering confidence in the Memphis Grizzlies? Do you, and I'm just using them as an example.
Sure.
Doesn't it feel like Denver's not the exact same team that they've been? And what happens in the postseason, we'll see. Is Minnesota a team that you're like, yeah, watch out for them? And I'm not telling you these teams aren't talented and they don't have great players, but doesn't it feel like you could kind of dissect every team in the West and everybody's got a little bit of a question mark as well?
Yeah, big time. It's funny because, the past couple of years, Alan, the Lakers have been like the 9 seed right around this time of year. And they go on this run and they keep winning and winning and winning. And we're watching the standings and we're like, God, they're not moving. They're winning and winning and winning. And they're stuck. Why? Because everyone in the West is winning. That's not been the case this year. In fact, over the last couple of weeks, most Western Conference teams have faltered. Now, not the Houston
500.
Rockets.
Yeah.
Not the Clippers have started winning. The Warriors have started winning. The Wolves have started winning at a higher rate. But you look at the Nuggets, you look at the Lakers, you look at the Grizzlies, they're all faltering at the same. And you could say, what a missed opportunity by the Lakers. They could be comfortably the 3 seed right now, very easily be sitting in the 3 seed and be, fairly relaxed in the 3 seed. They'd have a couple of game lead on that, had they won some games. But yeah, there's a lot of question marks around all of these teams in the West right now. It's in terms of who's behind OKC, it's anybody's guess. Anybody could win any playoff series. The Lakers could beat the Grizzlies in a playoff series. The Grizz could beat the Lakers. Same thing with the Nuggets. Same thing with the Rockets, the Clippers. Every team poses their challenges, but you've got a whole bunch of teams. And this is kind of what we thought the West would be, but you've got a whole bunch of teams that are very, very close in terms of quality and who happens to be playing their best basketball, who is peaking at the right moment is probably ultimately going to determine who goes through.
If I said, let's take the Lakers out of it here for a quick second, and let's just assume every team is healthy and don't pay attention to the standings. If I said, give me the 2 or 3 most dangerous teams in the West, healthy, take Lakers out of it. Who are you putting there? And I'm just curious to see if your confidence is in a team like Houston, who's playing great ball right now, or is it more with a team like the Warriors, who been there, done it? They added Jimmy Butler. Give me 2-3 teams in the West that you're saying, okay, this is an issue in the playoffs.
Yeah, I think. The Warriors have staff.
Do you believe in the Clippers?
Not really.
I don't either. And here they are. They're playing good ball.
And they're playing good basketball, and they have they've played great defense. I don't know. Like, the problem with the Clippers is you never know when that Kawhi injury is going to come. And he's been playing great lately, and I hope it doesn't happen because I never want to see players injured. But that's been the history for them. It's been, every time when they go, oh, okay, the Clippers are looking dangerous. Up there goes Kawhi, right? Like that seems to happen. But Golden State with Jimmy Butler, playoff Jimmy, that could be concerning. Just when you've got 3 guys who have played at a playoff level, right? We think about the Houston Rockets. Playoff basketball is a different thing, right? There's a jump from summer league to preseason. There's a jump from preseason to regular season. There's a big jump from regular season to playoff basketball. And with Steph, Jimmy, Draymond, you've got three guys who know playoff basketball. I don't know if there's enough guys who you could say that about on Houston right now. So that's where maybe the Warriors get a little bit of an edge. Maybe Denver gets a little bit of an edge, though I think their defense is awful, and that will ultimately be their undoing as well. So the Warriors are a team that I look at and say, okay, that could be, a difficult team to deal with come playoff time. That could be a team that could really make a run. That's a team that could step it up for the postseason. I like Houston a lot. I like their defense. I like the way that they play. I just worry if there's a lack of experience that might rear its ugly head come playoff time with them. Denver, if they can't get to, they're playing defense at they're the bottom third of the NBA right now. If they can't get better than that, they're not going to win in the playoffs. That's the way that's going to go. They'll probably go home in the second round or something, even with Jokic, unless they can rediscover at least some type of league average defensive efficiency. But I think the Warriors are the team that I'm most keeping an eye on. Although I also wouldn't write off. It's strange because these are not the teams at the top. I wouldn't write off the Wolves because I also think defense matters so much come playoff time, and that's a team that is capable of playing very high level defense, and so that's a team that I also wouldn't write off as potentially being a tough out for somebody.
But I think that says it all. I think that was kind of what I don't think the standings necessarily represent the most dangerous teams. I don't know what's going to happen with Houston. I don't know what Memphis is. Denver has, even in the games Lakers have played Denver, they're just not the same team. I mean, that's the best way that I can put it. And even teams that, what's Luka look like in a set against Minnesota? What's Luka look like in a set against the Clippers? What's Luka look like in a set against against Denver? There's certain teams that he's played really well against. We'll close it off with this, and greatly appreciate your time, Trev. But I'm curious. We didn't really talk too much about them, and they are so far out in front of everybody else in the Western Conference. How do you view the Oklahoma City Thunder? How do you see them? I got a chance. I mentioned this on the broadcast or on one of my shows. I think Tuesday night on TNT, they had a game against Sacramento, and I just had the game on in the background. They're missing, I think, Jalen Williams, and somebody else was missing as well. They were so far and beyond better than the Sacramento Kings, which is an awful example. But it is something that I just kind of pay attention to, and I'm curious to get your thoughts. When I say the Oklahoma City Thunder, do you think they are ready right now, not even to just come out of the Western Conference, but to win an NBA championship, or you think that's going to be overtime?
Yeah. I think they are. I think the only reason why people discount them is because they haven't done it. They haven't done it yet. And so people want to say, oh, they're they haven't done this, they haven't done that. But they are by far the best defense in the NBA. And people may want to look at, the whistles they get, or, the way the aggressiveness they're allowed to play with on the defensive end, the fouls they commit that don't get called out. There's plenty of things that we could do to discredit just about any team, but they're playing the best defense in the NBA, and it's not close. It's not close in terms of their defensive efficiency. If that holds true come playoff time, they're going to be a very difficult out. Yes, if you slow down SGA, does that limit some of their offensive upside? Maybe, but this is a team that plays very fast. They play very aggressive on the defensive end of the floor. They force a lot of turnovers, and they play great basketball. And if you want to say defense wins championships, they're the best defensive team in the NBA. I think this team is for real. I think they are ready to win an NBA title right now. I think, again, it's just like with Cleveland. We're discounting Cleveland, and that's what all the odds say too, just because we haven't seen them do it before. And that's the only reason why, which is funny to me because we're going on, 6 years now where we've had a new champion every single year. But we're doing the same thing to OKC. We're discounting their ability to win the whole thing simply because we haven't seen them do it. And I think they play phenomenal basketball. They're going to be the favorites in any series in the West, and they should be. They've run away with the conference. They have the best record in the NBA, and I would be surprised if the outcome, it's not impossible, but I would be surprised if the outcome of the playoffs is anything other than OKC in the finals coming out of the West.
Yeah, I think we don't give teams credit because they haven't got there, and then we give teams too much credit to still be in the hunt because they've been there before. Listen to our conversation we had about the Warriors, the Nuggets. A lot of those conversations because what they've done previously. So we give them extra credit and we take away credit for those that haven't. That just kind of comes with the territory. That's okay.
Sure.
Boston's now going to get this unwavering, it's the Celtics until somebody takes them out. You kind of earn that. So, all right, brother. Well, good stuff. I don't know how much we've been able to cope with that last L. Interesting game tomorrow. Tomorrow against Memphis will be the next few, Trev, if you think about this, Memphis we have not seen yet with Luka and LeBron. We'll see what happens with Ja Morant. Houston on Monday, we have not seen yet with this iteration of the Lakers. Warriors coming up on, Thursday. You got some games here. I might be missing a game in between, but you got some games here where it's going to be kind of a new look for everybody. So
yeah.
It's going to be exciting to watch some of these games and see how the Lakers do for this stretch run.
Yeah, I mean, critical run here. We talked about the road trip and how important this was suddenly. Obviously, dropping this last game really hurt. And now you're playing against your direct. So these games, these next 3 games, all effectively count double because you're playing your playoff competitors. If you no-show a game, you're pushing a win onto your opponent's record just as you're putting a loss onto your own. So what the Lakers do with these next 3 games is going to be critical. And I think this will ultimately determine whether or not the Lakers really fall into the play-in, or which would be an absolute unmitigated disaster, or not. And so we'll see what they can do over these next 3.
All right, there it is. That's Trevor Lane, Lakers Nation. Trev, appreciate it, buddy. Thank you very much for coming on. Good seeing you. Okay, bud?
Hey, thanks for having me, Alan. Appreciate it.
All right, man. Talk to you soon. All right, Trevor Lane there. Great stuff as always from him. That's my guy. Love Trevor Lane. Love talking hoops with him. Love having him on the show. And, he's as wired as it gets. I don't think Trev sleeps. I don't think the guy sleeps. Every time I go online, Trevor's there. Guy's always covering something, always making it happen. All right, well, take a look at some of the comments here, and we'll keep the show going. And I think we got through a lot of what I wanted to get to. So I'll hit on a couple other stuff. Just quick kind of a weekend preview that we'll get ahead of here. And then, like I mentioned, I'm going to do a show after for MVP members. We're going to do a show as well. All right, let me take a look at some of the comments. I haven't looked at the comments. I left my people behind here. Let's see what we got here. Lakers Nation and Boo-ha, good folks. Agree with that. Trevor, I am a fan. Love me some Trev. Okay, let's kind of keep going here. I'm going to look at a couple of these comments here. All right. Yesterday was like exactly the loss that the Nets had the Wizards with Russ and Beal a few years ago, but worse. Oh, yeah, I remember that. That's right. It came all the way back. Who hit that final shot? Was Beal or Russ? I know what you're talking about. That was obviously a handful of years back, so that was a little bit ago. Okay, so Lakers got Memphis tomorrow. I'm going to promote a couple things here real quick because I want to make sure we're all on the same page of this. But I'm going to have somebody on a little bit later today. I'm going to record a kind of a separate interview. Last week when I was doing the members only video, somebody encouraged to have somebody on that covers the Memphis Grizzlies. Joe Mullinax covers the Grizzlies. He does the Locked On Grizz podcast. He's a contributor to Grizz Lead. I couldn't get him on the time slot that I'm doing the show, so I'm going to do a separate video with him that I'm just going to post on its own, talking about the Lakers and the Grizzlies coming up for tomorrow. And Sammy Long's also going to have a video as well that he'll do a preview video for, so something to keep in mind. All right, a couple things here we'll do before as we kind of get ready for the weekend preview. I want to give a quick shout out here. I've mentioned this to you guys before. Brad Wallace and the Wallace firm is a proud partner of the show here on the Sleewa show, and then also the post-game shows that I'm doing. I'm just really going to kind of promote a little bit of what he does, and this may not apply to everybody, and frankly, I hope it applies to nobody. but life happens, things happen. WallaceWins.com/Sliwa. WallaceWins.com/Sliwa. If you need legal help for a serious injury, if someone that's been close to you has been seriously injured or is dealing with the loss of a loved one, Brad Wallace of the Wallace firm, somebody that I've known for about 5 years, was with me when I was over at 710 ESPN. He was there promoting his business and using me as kind of the endorser. I come over here to YouTube, and he's been actually an integral part of just mindset, starting your own business. And here he is now supporting the channel as well. So WallaceWins.com/Sliwa, WallaceWins.com/Sliwa. If you or a family member gets into a predicament or a situation, the Wallace firm, they're proven trial lawyers, and they may be able to help you. I can make an introduction myself, or you can go to WallaceWins.com/Sliwa, get a free consultation. You kind of fill out this questionnaire there, but it's a free consultation, and he can help anybody in the state of California. So shout out to Brad Wallace and the Wallace firm. Appreciate him being a part of the show and appreciate him supporting the channel. Okay, with that said, let's do a little bit of a weekend preview here. You know what's crazy? As we get ready for the weekend preview, yesterday I was so busy, worried about the Lakers loss to the Chicago Bulls. And to be honest with you, I just had other stuff going on. I forgot NCAA was on last night. Completely forgot. I completely forgot. So part of the preview, you know, obviously we got these key games coming up again to get to the Elite Eight. You got half the teams that already won yesterday, and then you got, you know, everybody remaining now. So later today, Ole Miss, Michigan State, Kentucky, Tennessee, Michigan and Auburn, and Purdue and Houston. Yesterday, shows you how off the radar I am in college basketball. Florida, Maryland, 87-71. Florida won. Duke beat Arizona. Cooper Flag dropped 30. We all know there's a lot of teams kind of trying to tank for Cooper Flag. Alabama all over BYU, and Texas Tech won in overtime against Arkansas. Whatever that means to you guys, if you guys are big, you know, college basketball fans, got some good games coming up tonight, so that's going to be on the schedule. In the NBA, I was looking at the scoreboard. I was looking at the scores. Kind of an interesting game coming up on Sunday. Clippers and the Cavs. Are Clippers good? Are they good? I can't figure it out. I know I'm going to the standings, and they're all of a sudden kind of sneaking their way back into the mix here. They're in the number 6 spot. They're avoiding the play-in tournament right now. They've won 8 of their last 10 games. Are they good? Let me actually take a look here. Who have they beat? They beat the Knicks, lost to the Thunder, beat Memphis, Cleveland, Charlotte, Atlanta, Miami, lost to New Orleans, beat Sacramento, New York, and Detroit. Hell if I know. I know they're playing good right now. So that's a little bit of a preview. Just a quick look back. Obviously, yesterday was the start of Major League Baseball. Technically, the start of Major League Baseball. Obviously, Cubs and the Dodgers already played that 2-game set in Tokyo. Padres, my squad, 7-4 over the Atlanta Braves. Dodgers, 5-4 over the Detroit Tigers. Blake Snell makes his debut for the Dodgers, goes 5 innings, I think gave up 2 earned runs. I know he had 4 or 5 walks, something along those lines. Teoscar hit a home run. Edmund hit a home run. Shohei hit a home run. So Dodgers are now 3-0. I saw one thing on the New York Mets, kind of interesting, funny. ESPN puts it on there. MLB Stories. Juan Soto up. 2 on, 2 outs in the 9th inning against the Houston Astros. They're down 3-1. Soto struck out. It's like they set it all up, and I'm like, oh, Soto, okay, there's your – that every time he does something bad, people are going to say, hey, you overpaid him. And then when he does something well, that contract is crazy, so it kind of is what it is. Nothing too close to pay attention to. Weekend preview, as always, I've mentioned this before, is weekend preview and recap is presented by the Wallace firm. If you need legal help for a serious injury, the Wallace firm are proven trial lawyers. Go to wallacewins.com/Sliwa to learn more. wallacewins.com/Sliwa. Okay, let me take a look at a couple comments, and then we'll start getting ready for the show that we're going to do. We'll do the show that we got coming up for the members. Dub T, Slee, it's Flaherty versus Yamamoto tonight. That's right. Flaherty, obviously a big part of the Dodgers World Series, goes back to Detroit and is pitching against Yamamoto. Harden will choke in the playoffs. You might be right there, but I will say this: they're doing something. Sleet, okay, this is people bringing things back to reality. Sleet's the Clippers. They're good until the playoffs. Couple people here on Cooper Flag. Yeah, Cooper Flag. That's it's an interesting one. Where he ends up, who's got the best odds for number one pick, NBA 2025? Just curious here. Right now, Tankathon is awesome. Best odds right now. Remember the way they did it now, it's a little bit different. The first 4 teams almost have equal odds, the worst 4 teams. So right now, Utah, Washington, Charlotte, and New Orleans are the 4 worst teams that have a shot at Cooper Flag. Not trying to go to Washington, I'll tell you that. I don't know what that franchise is doing. Even Charlotte. Charlotte's all over the place as well. So we'll see where Cooper Flag ends up. A couple more comments. Flag to the Wizards. Just, I mean, I genuinely feel like tomorrow the Wizards can sign me as the general manager, and I will do as poor of a job as their current general manager. Maybe actually what they're doing is just trying to, lose as many games as possible, which they're really good at. Maybe that's the game plan, and maybe that's how they end up getting out of the mess that they're in. All right. Okay, I think we're good. I think that's all we got. Solid week, everybody. I appreciate you guys hanging out. If you're a member, I'm going to go live. I need 30 minutes after the show ends. So 9:40, I'm going to go live for members, and we'll do our live show that we do every Friday, kind of a recap show where we talk about the week that we just had and kind of game plan a little bit for the upcoming week. If you are a member, talk to me about guests. I got some guests in mind for this upcoming week based on matchups. If you got topics that you think we should hit on that we have not hit on, let me know, and we'll get into a couple things as well. So thank you for being a part of the show. Appreciate you guys hanging out and obviously being a part of it as well. Big Sneed, thank you very much for the 20 spot. You sent that earlier. Greatly appreciate that. I think the conversation about the media and kind of what it's being driven towards, it's being driven towards clicks, but I still think it's, obviously the responsibility of the networks to also say, cool, but we're also going to try to have healthy conversations, not personal vendettas or anything like that. But who knows? That's not the way the space is built today. Thank you, everybody, for coming on. Shout out to Trevor Lane for joining the show. Thank you again to Brad Wallace for being a partner. I'll be back in about a half hour for members, and then later today I'm going to be posting up a video talking about the Lakers and the Grizzlies with one of the beat writers. So thank you very much, everybody. Hope you guys have a great rest of your day. Appreciate the solid week, and we'll see you guys in a little bit.